Hello everyone, welcome to Bujo Junk. I'm Megan, and let's get started. Today we're going to be comparing these three notebooks. Two are said to be dupes of the Archer and Olive A5 notebook. They're all A5 size, they are all dotted, and they all have bright white pages. This is the packaging they all come in. First we're opening the Archer and Olive. I have the Pride notebook here. It's really pretty with the hollow foiling on the front and on the edges of the pages. Then I have this Aquarius Constellation notebook by this brand that I can't say the name of. So I'm just comparing them size-wise. They're the same height, width, thickness. They both feel really good and sturdy. The Constellation notebook does come with a pen. And then I'm comparing them to the Buke notebook. This is the Panda notebook that they sell. And I'm comparing the size of the Buke to the Constellation notebook, which they also are the same size-wise. They feel the same weight too. This Buke notebook did have some mess-ups in the packaging when it came, and I did find that actually there was a scratch in the cover. It was actually pretty deep. My camera didn't show you quite how deep it was, but it was a pretty deep scratch in the cover. But I wasn't too upset about it. I still think it's a good notebook, and the sleeve does come with these three features. I'm removing the pen from the Constellation notebook because I'm not going to include it in the comparison. I just want to compare the actual notebooks themselves, and this is just showing you that really pretty hollow foiling on the side of the Archer and Olive. It does feel really good on the back. It feels sturdy and solid and like it was made really well. And so I just removed that sleeve so you can see the pen loop on the side. It is in the middle of the side, so it's a little lower than the other two, but they're pretty much all the same. And the Buke does have that elastic strap. So first we're looking at the Archer and Olive. I'm just going to open it up, and it is a 5mm space dot grid notebook. It has this belongs to page at the front. It did come with this page folded on the corner, which I wasn't super happy about, but it's not the biggest deal. And then I'm just gonna go in and break in the binding. You see I do this with all of the notebooks. I do this with all of my notebooks anyways, but these all claim to be lay flat notebooks, and this is just one way to get them to lay flat more quickly, and it's better so you're not accidentally cracking or hurting the binding later on. So I just take about 10 pages from the front and the back and lay them down at a time. And as you can see, the Archer and Olive handles it without an issue. The pages do feel rather smooth. The dots are light gray. They almost blend into the paper. And the paper is very thick. It's got that 160 GSM thick paper. It feels really nice and should be resistant to ghosting and bleeding with most things that you're going to use in this notebook, and in all three of them, because they all claim to be 160 GSM. So then we move to the back of the notebook, and we're going to start our pen swatch section. So I'm starting with the Tombow Fudenosuke pen. This is the hard tip pen, and I'm just doing a little swatch and then writing the name of it. And then I'm moving on to these three zebra mildliners. These three I just randomly picked because they seemed to be the darkest ones I had. And I use all of these pens and markers through all of the notebooks. And then I'm taking a selection of Crayola Super Tips, and I'm just going to use those also. They're water-based, so they shouldn't be any problem for any of these notebooks, but they're something that most people have or have access to, so I figured I'd show you guys how those work in these notebooks anyways. Then I also included this Pentel Precise V5 pen. It's just a black pen that I really enjoy, and I find that it does have some smearing issues on a lot of paper, but I didn't see that in any of these notebooks. And then I also used a Pigma Micron. I believe it's the 05 version. And then just to really test the paper, I did try out these Artist Loft alcohol-based markers, which alcohol-based markers I know are going to bleed through this paper because it's not marker paper, and that's fine. I just wanted to really see how far it would go. So these are the Artist Loft alcohol markers, and then I also am going to use the Winsor & Newton Pro markers, which are another set of alcohol markers. And I even decided to test a Sharpie pen in this notebook because Sharpies are notorious for bleeding through everything, so I tried that out too. And then I'll flip over the paper so we can see how the notebook did. So on the back side here, you can see that there was bleeding from all of the alcohol markers, which was to be expected, although the Sharpie pen didn't bleed at all and didn't even ghost, which I was really surprised about. And none of the other pens or markers had any ghosting or bleeding. Take a look at the Constellation notebook by these companies that I'll put on the screen here. It does have a ownership page at the front, and it does have 5mm dot spacing. There was a little bit of glue that seemed to have seeped onto this page. I'm not sure if that's what it was, but it had an odd texture. It was just the one page that had it, and so it may just be a fluke that happened with my notebook, and that's fine. I'm breaking in the binding again, and as you can see, this notebook does want to resist laying flat a little more than the last one. You can see the pen loops here. You can see the bookmark ribbons here. It does come with two, like the Archer and Olive. One is a like navy blue and the other one is more of a royal blue, so you can tell them apart while the book is closed. Like Archer and Olive has them, so you can tell them apart because one has their little charm with their logo on it and the other doesn't. And the dots on this notebook I found were rather dark. I would say they're a medium gray, not light. So at first it was kind of distracting, but I really quickly found working into the book that it wasn't an issue for me. They kind of disappeared in my mind. So if that's something that will upset you or is a factor to you, it's good to note. And I checked to see if the dots moved at all between the pages, and then no, they were consistent. They didn't move, so that's good. So then I'm going to the back of the notebook and I'm going to do the same pen swatch that we did with all the same pens and markers as the first notebook. Then you can see at the end of this notebook that we did have bleeding with the alcohol markers, which was to be expected. We had the slightest bit of ghosting with that Sharpie, but I would say it's not even noticeable, and nothing else ghosted, which is really good. So then moving on, we are going to do the exact same thing with the Buke notebook. And so I was looking, and the dot spacing is 5mm. But the dots are a lighter gray, which is more comparable to the Archer and Olive. And I was looking at the dots to check the consistency between pages, and there was one page where the dots did not line up. They shifted a little bit, but I did not find that that was an issue anywhere else, and they were back to normal. It's just that one page. This does only have one bookmark ribbon. Then I'm going ahead and breaking in the binding, although I really did not find for this notebook that it was necessary at all. It just immediately laid flat with every page, which you can see it was ready to be laid flat. I did find that the paper was incredibly smooth on this notebook, so I don't think that you'll have any issues of it tearing up your marker tips, but it did feel lighter to me, or thinner. I'm not sure what it was. They claim that it is 160 GSM paper, but maybe it was the coating on it that made it a little thinner. I'm not sure, but it did feel rather smooth, the coating that it had. And they are bright white pages, just like the other notebooks. And I apologize here, I did lose the beginning of this clip. I'm not sure what happened, but I lost the beginning of this clip where I tested the first few markers. But it's just like the other notebooks. We're testing the same markers and the same pens. The only difference here was with that very first mild liner, the red one, I did end up going over the swatch a second time because I missed a little bit. So that does have a bit of an effect later on that you'll see, but that's the only difference between testing these same pens and markers on this notebook versus the other two. So again, after using that Sharpie pen, I'm just going to flip over the page and show you how our markers and pens did. And I was pleasantly surprised that they all did pretty well in this notebook too. Even though this notebook feels the most cheaply made, it still feels good, but because the paper felt thinner, I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. And of course we had the expected bleeding of the alcohol markers, but the Sharpie pen still, we only had minimal ghosting. That spot where I did go over the mild liner swatch did have the slightest bit of ghosting, but I wouldn't say it was anything notable, and nothing else ghosted or bled, which was really good. And I was surprised because this paper did feel different. So comparing these three notebooks, I think that they're all really good notebooks. I think especially if you have a smaller budget or you just want to test out a new notebook, you want to try something similar to Archer and Olive, but you don't want to dish out that, you know, almost $40 for an Archer and Olive, then these are worth a shot. The one from Amazon, the Constellation one, definitely felt the highest quality of the two dupes, but I think that they're both good. I think they're both worth buying. I'll definitely rebuy probably both of them because I really liked the designs that they came in. And then so here I was testing the pen loop because the pen loop did feel tighter and smaller on the Buke and much bigger on the Archer and Olive. So I used that pen that came with the Constellation notebook, and as you can see I struggled a bit the first and the second time getting the pen in there, but I did stretch it out a bit and it did get easier, so maybe that elastic will stretch out. And with the Archer and Olive notebook, I found that the pen loop was really large, and that if you don't have a pen with a the clip, then that may be an issue. You may risk losing your pen in that pen loop. Just something to note. Or if you have larger, thicker pens that you want to use, that would be great, and those will totally work. But I think these are all wonderful notebooks, and I highly recommend purchasing any of them. Thank you for watching my video. I would love it if you can like and subscribe, and I hope you have a wonderful day.